Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Quantum Leap Season 1 Episode 10. It's called Paging Dr. Song. So, full spoilers for the episode. As always, this episode, the show turns into just like a hospital show, because we're in a hospital for the whole thing, and Ben is a doctor, a young black woman who is a victim of not harassment, just discrimination is the word I'm looking for. She's a victim of discrimination from her superior. I don't even know if technically, I think he's like the head doctor. He's up the food chain. That's a doctor anyway, and has 3 people to save in the hospital. 3 different patients who all need to be saved in this timeline in one way or the other, and that's his goal for the episode. So we'll get into that. And we also, of course, have the Janice stuff in the present day, which didn't do what we were worried about yet. It's still possible it could happen in the future.
No, I like the stuff that happens though.
Yeah, I think the first couple of scenes with her were just kind of just typical fluff of like she's not talking yet, but the scene at the end with Addison's where she finally starts to say something, what she does say is quite interesting, and it was making me think a little bit of the show Travelers, in that effectively what she says to Addison is she says, you have to tell Ben to stop telling you things. He can't tell you anything he remembers from this point on. And her reason for that is that this idea that if he says something out loud, and this confirms effectively this other traveler, this guy that, confronted him before, it confirms that he's come from the future. Because the idea is, much like how like Ziggy can find all this information from the past, once it's out in the world, and once it's been, especially once there's a record of it somewhere, whether it's on the internet, whether it's like on a database somewhere, or whatever it may be, once there's a record, it's something that can be accessed in the future. So even though it's not that Addison would then tell someone that she's not supposed to tell, if this version of Quantum Leap in the future has the records of this version of Quantum Leap, then they'll know everything they know. So Ben can't tell them. That was quite interesting. That is my favorite thing about this episode, is this idea that she introduces at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So how did you feel about this revelation?
Yeah, it was very interesting. I have not watched the show Travelers, but the idea that it's becoming very clear now that Ben has a real important reason as to why everything was kept secret. It does seem like it would be easier just to keep a secret like this than try to get the whole team on board, though there is still that barrier of like, well, if like everybody knew not to talk about it or not to keep records of this for this important reason, it still would have had the same effect. Plus they all seem to like each other and like working as a team, so maybe it could have still worked. But I don't know. This is good though. Like I like this stuff a lot. I like that Janice didn't just like take, like when she said there's someone else I'd be willing to talk to, I thought it was going to be Ziggy. I thought she was going to be with Ziggy, and I thought there was going to be some sort of escape plan, and that didn't happen. And you're right, it could happen next week. But this does feel important, and it feels satisfying to the mystery.
I think what I like about it as well is that once, not that this will end the show obviously, but once he potentially achieves what he was trying to do, or if things change where it's no longer a possibility, at that point he can just talk about it, because it won't matter if the future knows about it now. But but until he actually succeeds in whatever his mission is, whatever he's trying to do to save Addison, until that happens, like, he in theory cannot talk about it, because then that information could make its way to the future. And it's not because Addison's going to blab, it's because, just once it's out there, it can potentially be traced back to when he opened his mouth. So this idea that the only real way to keep a secret is to never say it, is to always just have it.
Yeah. Internally.
And maybe that's why he went to Janice. Because Janice, I think that's the other interesting part of this, is that Janice doesn't sound happy that she was sort of brought into this. She's not like, she wasn't excited that Ben came to her. She's like, no, do you think I wanted him to come to me? That's kind of interesting, Mm-hmm. He kind of burdened her with this, perhaps because she was an outsider. And, maybe she doesn't even know exactly what the plan is. Maybe like part of this whole thing is that he's always said to her, I can't tell you, because then you'll know, and then it could like be linked back. Maybe this logic she gives to Addison is also something that she's aware of that part, but she doesn't actually know what the end goal of the plan is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the idea that, Addison has established that she's, a tough broad and who can take care of herself and, you know, wants to be told these things because she can handle the truth. But the idea that she can't know anything about the possibility of her death coming up, you know, like she can't work anything out with Ben now because he's got to keep everything a secret. But then also she has no clues as to what's going to happen to her that's going to affect her life. So it's, you know, that does throw an interesting wrench into this whole mystery. And also, and, you know, episodes going forward, like, you know, how are they going to dance around all this?
Yeah, it's interesting, I think, for another two reasons. One is that Addison kind of has to accept that she can't know. It's almost like accepting. It's almost like a more literal version of I have to accept that I don't know the future, even though someone else in the room does. I have to accept that, you know, I can't have answers to that. It makes it maybe frustrating, but it's kind of a lesson to learn from there. And then the other thing that's interesting is that, okay, Ben won't say anything, but what if this other traveler shows up and Addison's like standing there as a hologram? Whether or not the other traveler can see her or not in the moment is another question, but she can still certainly observe what's happening as a hologram, as she always does. What if he says something that presents new information to her, and then by extension our, you know, present day team, you know, they might learn something. Really cool. Yeah, go on.
Is if in the next episode Janice is the hologram and she's working with them. Because Addison can't talk to Ben anymore. But maybe Janice, because she knows enough that they trust her, or I wouldn't say they trust her, although they do kind of make a leap in trust, a leap of faith in this one, where magic like literally uncuffs her, even though she's proven to be untrustworthy the whole time.
Yeah, that felt like the start of like what we were hoping wasn't going to happen. I was a little worried at that point.
I was like, oh no, don't do it. And then like everyone's getting drunk in the next scene with her. I was kind of hoping, you know, she did take, you know, like 2 shots of that whiskey or whatever they poured. I was kind of hoping when the next time we saw her, she would be like a little bit drunk when she was talking to Addison.
Nah, she's too hard edged for that. She doesn't get drunk. Alcohol does not affect her.
That's stupid.
She inherited that from her father, who passed down.
Oh, alcohol definitely affected Al. You know how many times he was hungover in the first season?
That's true. I've already seen like 2 examples of it, and I've only watched like 5 episodes. So yeah, fair point.
But yeah, I think if Janice, like, because she says you can't talk to Ben because there's too much of a risk, and because you know that this whole thing is leading up to your death, like maybe have Janice be the hologram for a few episodes.
Well, slight correction. She doesn't say that you can't talk to Ben. She just says that he can't. He has to stop telling you things. Anything he remembers, he can't tell her. I don't think this is not. I don't think this is going to go down a path of Addison literally can't go and be the one that talks to him. I think it just has to be if he does remember, and maybe they'll send in Janice once to like tell him that and be like, "Hey, no, you can't tell her anything. Here's why." Because it'll ruin the possibility of success, because the information will be out there, and then it'll, you know, then the people in the future will know it, and then they know where to go next. And that's the other thing that comes up. Not in the scene with Addison. There's like one little slip with Jen. As she says, there's an order to this, and it's like, oh, there's an order of things. There's an order of events that have to play out, which her and Ben seemingly know about. Well, she knows about. Ben knew about. Doesn't know about it right now. To this, where maybe the reason why she's willing to like come in and like offer some advice to Addison is because maybe they weren't, maybe they didn't know that Ben was going to completely have amnesia, or maybe they were counting on the amnesia working better than it is. Maybe the fact that he's remembering snippets is actually a problem, and that like maybe Ben didn't think that would happen, and Janice didn't think that would happen. So she's she's intervening now to be like, okay, you have to tell Ben to stop telling you things because we planned on the amnesia being more effective and being more completely, like, you know, debilitating to his memory.
You know what this reminded me of? Yes. Do you remember the episode of Next Generation Clues?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the one where
everybody like is going throughout their day, but there's time missing. Like things are there's too many mysteries, and they get tempted and they have to like solve them because they just need answers, because that's what they do. They're explorers and they're scientists and they're adventurers. If there's a mystery there, it's just too tempting to keep going to try to figure it out. So maybe that's what's happening with Ben here, is that he's just and Addison, you know, everybody, they're just too intrigued by the mystery to not try to solve it, even if it leads to their demise. Like in that Next Generation episode, they left too many clues. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if Addison is just removed from the hologram and they put Janice in there, at least Janice knows what he's not supposed to know, so she can stop him if he's saying too much. Yeah, at least she has to become part of the team. Yeah,
the important part of that Star Trek episode is that they all agree to forget something, but then they're too tempted to look into what they've forgotten to let it go.
They left too many clues.
Yeah, and then there's a solution to it, obviously, by the end, which, but
everything turns out okay.
I don't think it's just going to it's not going to just flip to Janice being in there with him next episode. Like, I think she'll eventually be allowed to go in and talk to him, but I don't think she's just going to replace Addison. I mean, maybe that could be like an end of season thing where it's like, okay, Addison for some reason can't come in here anymore, or whatever. Like, honestly, the thing that I would predict, I don't know necessarily how or when yet, but I would assume that at some point the government are going to lock them out of the system, and then they're going to use Janice's like pirate one that she's made, like her version that she's built off somewhere else, and they're going to use her pirate tech to get into the system to talk to Ben. I think that'll happen at some point, but I suspect that we're going to see Addison struggle with, like, Ben, you don't have to tell me anything. In fact, it might take a whole episode for her to realise that she agrees with that. She probably won't accept it at first. She's probably going to be like, nah, like, that's stupid. Like, I'm not going to tell Ben that. But then maybe, like the show's been doing a lot since the start, there's going to be something in the story of the leap next time where she realises, yeah, maybe she's right. Maybe I shouldn't know things. or Ben should keep his mouth shut or something. Like, somehow there'll be something in the next story that kind of convinces Addison that this is the right choice to, like, actually follow Janice's advice.
I didn't feel that this episode was too, like, bonk on the head with the...
No, I agree.
The comparison.
The main story wasn't.
I do like the idea of, like, his job as a leaper to go and help save people's lives is very much like what, what doctors and nurses are doing all the time. And that kind of comparison that's being made, like, he's going to, try to literally save lives, and that's what their job is every day. And they have to do it to multiple people every single day. And because he's time traveling, and so the idea in this episode that he has to tell someone that, they've lost their wife or whatever, like, the idea that when he's time traveling, he has to accept that some of these people, like, are going to inevitably die at some point, and they're already dead to him from his time, or that their fate's kind of sealed. And while he's there to save one particular person, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's there to save everyone else. In fact, even in this episode, like, and I kind of called this, when we got the 3 potential people that he has to save, the idea that one was going to actually be who he gets the heart from for the other one, because one needs a heart transplant. Like, that was, as soon as they said she needs a heart transplant, I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of the other. And technically it wasn't one of the 3. It wasn't, though, right?
But it was the wife of one of the other ones.
Because I was thinking, okay, like, yeah, it's probably not going to be the dad, because they still have to, like, reconcile their relationship. But maybe, like, something went wrong with the other guy, with Mr. Tan, and he actually did die, and then, like, well, here's a heart or something. But that also felt a bit unsatisfying. Oh my god, you need a better system.
What? Firefly always, like, I always need to come back to let him go, and then I need to go back and shut the door. That's how it always happens.
Yeah,
right?
You gotta take your headphones off. I don't know how much of that you heard. Do I have to repeat myself?
No, I'll just start a new point and just hope what you said was good.
You need to, like, move your desk closer to the door or something. Get a longer cable for your headphones.
Oh no, it's attached to the wall. I can't. It's a longer cable.
You need to install a cat door.
A cat flap.
Yes.
Whatever
you want to call it.
The cat flap.
Make it a priority. Use that Patreon money.
Do I strike you as someone who pulls out, like, a saw and a drill and starts cutting holes into doors? Anyway, yeah, I wasn't, like, super into the leap in this one, and not because, like, conceptually there was anything wrong with it. I think it was because it felt so much like just like a hospital show for an episode that I felt a lot of the TV tropes of a lot of those things, like, peeking into it, where, like, every time they brought up this, like, because it's 1994, we didn't mention when it was, it's 1994, and one of the key plot points is it was this experimental drug that was later found to be, like, really dangerous to people with pre-existing conditions, and it was eventually pulled, but the head doctor doing this episode like is whipping it out, like, you know, he's popping it for everyone, and it puts someone in danger. It has to get
approved, and we're like the trial, so we have to get this pushed. Yeah. He's kind of a shill for the pharmaceutical company also.
Every single time that this came up and that someone tried to, like, you know, like Ben tried to block it and then he convinces the other doctor lady to block it, every single time it came up, I thought the dialogue was kind of cringy, and it felt really kind of like quick and forced, and it's one of these things where maybe they had too many characters in the episode, so nothing had room to breathe. That maybe that was the problem. But every time that it came up, it kind of just felt like really forced TV writing to me, where it was like, this drug that we've been talking about all episode, you can't use that. And it's like, look, we know it's safe. And it's like, yes, but here's the chart that proves that she's got a condition. And it's like they burst into the operating room when she's about to get like surgery. And it just, everything about it really felt really TV tropey to me this episode. So I wasn't really into the actual doctor stuff for the most part. It was kind of, you know, and then there's the reuniting the dad with the other doctor lady because he's estranged, but he's got a tumor now. Like, it all felt really just soapy and like TV trope to me.
I love medical dramas, but I agree that this one was just kind of fine. Like, medical dramas can really work for me, but this episode was doing the tropey stuff, sure. It didn't quite nail the medical drama and what works about those dramas in this episode, though. There was something missing. But, I mean, that's okay. I still found The Leap to be good, and I still definitely like this episode quite a bit. The woman who plays the doctor, I actually recognized from YouTube, of all places, because she used to be one of the hosts of, I think it was Collider, back when they did like a movie show. And I used to watch that show. Not because I particularly liked everybody in it, but because I liked getting movie news daily. And they still do like interviews and stuff. I don't think they do like a show anymore.
I recognize the what was the Asian man's name?
Tan,
yeah.
Tan?
That actor pops up in a lot of things. He usually plays a cop. He's shown up as like a cop investigating something in like multiple movies. Over the last like decade, like he's one of those guys who just pops up all the time. So
yeah,
wasn't a surprise to see him. I don't think I recognized anyone else specifically. I think the writers, at least one of the writers of this show though, is a Scrubs fan, because I just noticed when I was looking at the IMDb page, the main doctor lady's last name is Turk, which I believe is one of the main characters on Scrubs. Which I don't like that show. I hate that show, but I just happen to know that one of them is named Turk, so I assume that's a reference.
I have not watched that show. I've probably caught a couple of episodes to see if it was for me, and it didn't catch me. But like, it's all right. I know it works for a lot of people. I'm sure that there was some funny stuff in it, I remember, but it wasn't like a show where I was like, oh, I'm going to keep watching this.
It's just a bit too zany for me, and I don't really like Zach Braff, so I think that.
I definitely don't like him now, but at the time when Scrubs was really hot, like, I didn't know I didn't like him. Like, he was fine in the episodes, I think, that I caught, but it just wasn't a show for me.
Yeah, it's fair.
It's a bit too boyish. It's too much of a sausage fest for me.
Fair enough. Coming from a fan of Predator, who's this like your favorite movie?
It's not my favorite movie.
It's close. It's high up on the list.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great movie, but
okay. Yeah, 2001, sure. But I'm just saying, Predator's like the most sausage fest of like almost any movie. Yeah, but it's done well.
It knows what it is, you know.
And it's
there's a bit of a wink at the camera every time.
Yeah, and it's meaty sausage as well. Like, it's all these muscly men.
Oh yeah. Sexual Tyrannosaurus.
That's the phrase I'd use. Yes.
Of a film that luckily gets invaded by a sci-fi movie.
Yes. So yeah, I just like obviously it's cute. There's a reference to there's one reference to the time period, which is like Ben needs some information, and it's like in the mid-90s you had these encyclopedias that were on 50 CD ROMs. Yeah. So he puts the CD into the computer, and that's how he gets the information.
That's cute. I like seeing the computer also, and he's got pagers. The episode's called Paging Dr. Soon.
There's there's a couple of paging moments. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Other than that, though, that doesn't really feel that 90s. It just kind of felt like whenever.
Yeah, it also we got another gender swap, and it really didn't matter too much, except with the doctor, the bad doctor, who was just like
called her Missy.
condescending tones and language used towards her, even though they're both doctors too,
which mostly just built up to kind of like a joke, effectively, where Ben almost swears at him, where he's like, did you just call me Missy, you mother? I didn't say mother, he said something, but it sounded like he was almost about to swear, and then he gets cut off.
He definitely was.
But it plays it that way. And then also the joke at the start about, like, he just starts adjusting, like, in the middle of the scene, and Adam's like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, is this bra? I don't know what to do with it. Which begs the question, like, we see him looking like him. So, like, I love the idea that he's still wearing a bra, even though he still looks like him. It's just, I don't know, it's like a funny thing to think about. But
Sure. Yeah. And presumably, like, the bra is fitted to him, like it would be for her.
So it's just like a flat bra.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that. I like the little, little notes. It's not like a big deal that he's a woman or anything.
Yeah,
Unlike the first time, like, Sam leaps into a woman, is like, whoa. It's just everything about being a woman in one go. All the jokes are made like right up front.
Yeah, they're kind of spacing this out a little bit. But it is kind of weird. Like, they've kind of lost their opportunity to do like I have to go to the bathroom. Oh, I feel weird about it kind of moment. Because, like, there's no way he didn't go to the bathroom when he was here for like the full day.
Yeah, that's true.
Because he still sees himself though. So, like, what happens when he goes to the bathroom and he stands there and unzips? Like,
and he had to change, right? Because in the opening, he's like wearing a leather jacket.
Yeah.
And all that. He had to change it to. Was he wearing scrubs at one point?
But he still sees himself though, unless he looks in a reflection. So presumably when he's changing, he just sees. Which begs the question: he put on the bra.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting to. Maybe because he knows, like, well, I mean, they're seeing this lady. She's not going to go to work without a bra.
Does he get dressed in front of the mirror? Not because he's being pervy and he wants to look, but just because he has to, like, fit things and, like, make sure they look right. Yeah. I mean, the episode starts with him delivering a baby, so he's already seen something. He's why not go all in at that point?
Was it no blade of grass? Is that what he saw?
Yeah. No Blade of Grass is
what a movie.
Is a British sci-fi film from like 1971 that has footage of a real birth. And when I say it has footage of a real birth, I mean it has footage of
from between the legs.
Yes. What's the opposite of penetration?
We see the crowding.
The crowding, yes. I mean, that's more direct, yeah. But I was going for like the opposite of penetration, the emergence.
The chest burster. From the place it's supposed to, yeah.
That's no chest.
I don't know. I'm never having kids.
That was a Star Wars reference. It was a stupid one, but...
Oh, yeah. Didn't taste that.
There's something just about the demeanor of them at the window of the Millennium Falcon, except instead of talking about the Death Star / a moon, we're just staring at between the legs of a birthing mother and going, that's no chest.
Oh, man. I think we're looking at a real birth. Not a bad sci-fi movie, though. Just, be ready.
Star Wars or No Blade of Grass?
No Blade of Grass.
I almost said No Blade of Glass there, because I
mean, Star Wars is also a great film. Yeah, you should watch that. But I don't think anyone needs my recommendation for that.
True. By all means, you can check out all of our thoughts on many weird 70s sci-fi movies over in the Atomic Cinema Experiment over in Male Fuzz Movies, if you wish.
Mm-hmm.
Wheel in that.
I can't.
Okay.
Okay, he's done.
All right.
I thought he was going to piss on something.
Yeah, so I don't have a whole much to say, I think, about the actual hospital plot, really. Which, I mean, obviously they play some big dramatic beats where he has to tell the man his wife is dying, and Addison tells a story about having to tell, a loved one, that a fellow soldier, whoever had died in combat, and like she sort of tells this like heartfelt story. I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it felt really tropey to me, is it was kind of like going through so many of these beats, where it's like We've got them breaking into a surgery to like stop someone doing something. We've also got someone remembering what it's like to tell someone that someone they've loved has died, and convincing that man to like let them like unplug his wife so they can use her heart for someone else. Like there's so many like overly sentimental scenes that all of it just felt a little bit too much, and none of them had a chance to really feel like as big as they should have done as a result. And the actors are doing their best, like they're putting the emotion on and stuff, but there comes a point where it just kind of feels like very like TV, and like the music's going, and I don't really feel the investment in any one of these. Like, you've only got one episode typically with each of these leaps to get invested in the characters in them, so unless you devote all that time to really caring about the one character and you use that 40-ish minutes correctly to do it, like I think you get this where you get like, okay, there's like all these things going on, and there's all these people that you in theory should feel sad about. You know, this father who was a horrible lawyer for evil companies, but he wants to, you know, make amends with his daughter and like, you know, fight this like corrupt medication company that's pumping out this shit by the end. Like, all of this is fine in theory, but it's all just too much in one episode to actually feel the weight of any one of them. So
sure,
yeah.
I mean, to say something nice about which we've been nice about this episode, because I think it was a decent one. I do really like Raymond Lee in this. Like, I really like the character of Ben, and I think, you know, every time I watched it, and like sometimes the comedy, you know, falls flat, but I don't think any of the comedy lines fall flat with him. I think he's really good, and I really like his character and his acting as Ben.
Probably one of the better scenes, and I think the reason why it's a better scene is not just because it's slightly funny that he's talking to Mr. Tan as he's getting this shrapnel ticket, because there's like, even like a funny reveal where they think, oh, he looks okay, and then the doctor who's like looking at him like steps to the side, and you see this bit of metal sticking in his forehead.
Yeah. He's got like a shuriken.
Yeah. And the other doctor says, hey, you need to like distract him and stuff and like talk to him, and Addison like makes a little quip like, oh, it's finally something you're qualified for. But I actually really like this idea that, oh, he is qualified for this, and it's why I think it's the scene that's the most effective in the whole episode, is because it's not about the guy he's talking to, it's not about any of the medical stuff, it's about him, it's about the character that we're staying with episode to episode, it's about who he is as a person, which is why it felt more resonant and more important than any other scene in the whole episode. So but that was a good scene. Obviously the Flash, you know, I laughed a little bit, not because they show it, but I kind of almost wanted them to do a comedy beat. See when he leaps away, it's like, you know, they're sitting outside, it's an emotional beat, and he's sort of leaning in to kiss Addison, and they've already kind of held hands, not really, of course, because she's a hologram.
I did like that moment too, actually, when she reaches for his hand, like she really wants to comfort him. Well,
in fact, he reaches out first, so he really wants to comfort, like he really, so it's really sweet. But at the end, like, they're sitting and they sort of lean in as if they're going to kiss, and they can't really kiss, but they're leaning in to kiss, and I couldn't help but want the camera to stay here after, because it cuts away when he leaps. I thought, no, stay here, so it turns into the woman who he's been, and like, obviously she wouldn't see Addison because Addison's not really, but I love the idea of Addison leaning in for a kiss, and then like it changes into who it really is, and then she just kind of awkwardly sitting like and pulls back, and like, you know, the young woman who Ben was just sort of sitting there like, why am I here? Oh, I'll just get up. I don't know. I felt that there was like a moment for a comedy beat there, but
yeah, you know, totally.
But we were too busy.
She's got a lot to answer for, because while Ben was possessing her, she was able to predict the future. She turned into Miss Cleo for a little while.
That's true. She was like, because Ben asked like, where are these three patients? And the nurse at the desk is like, we don't have them on the system. And then like they all come in because of this train accident that happens. And she's like, wait, how did you know we were going to get patients with these names? And I'm like, this woman is going to have a reputation for being a Nostradamus after Ben's gone.
I thought maybe there would be a little bit of a cautionary tale with that. Like, maybe Ben should be more careful about like going around and saying things like that, or you know, he was really willy-nilly about like just talking to Addison in these corridors full of people. And, you know, someone did say, if you're done talking with yourself, you know, or to yourself, then, you know, we could use your help in here. I think it was the main doctor lady. But, you know, I think that I would like a little bit more detail into that. Like, you know, not forget that Addison isn't really there for everyone else around, you know, and we could just see people, even just glances in the background from extras, like that person all right? Like,
What-
they should probably, do they think they're in a room alone right now and just talking to themselves or something?
What's funny about that is that I think in anything else, if it had a different premise, I would assume that it was like real people who just noticed there was filming something and they were going, what's going on? Are they filming something down there? But here it would make sense in context.
Yeah, or just something like just the point of view from somebody else who's seen this person just talk to themselves,
I guess,
like they're having a conversation with a person.
When I was talking about like having a joke moment where like it turns into the woman where Addison's about to kiss Ben, I guess like I would like a little bit of something occasionally after Ben leaves, like just the real person kind of reacting to stuff. Like again, you could do a joke where, you know, let's say, go back to the bra joke, right? So Ben's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And Addison's like, oh, yeah, bras, like, I've gotten better since, maybe get one like these. I like the idea that he gets a better bra, a more comfortable bra when he's, like, in this woman's body. So then this woman, like, comes back after the leap and is like, I'm really comfortable. What's happened here? Like, and it's like,
or she's like, why is my bra on upside down? Or like,
oh, yeah, or something
reversed
silly.
or something, like, because he did it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. Upside down would be more noticeable.
Like, or just, and I'm saying jokey things, but even just something as simple of like, we see the doctor lady come back, she goes in, and then the other doctor lady says, hey, thanks again for, like, saving my dad, or like convincing my dad, or maybe the reception says, oh,
Yep.
it's crazy you did that thing that saved that guy's life, and just have her be like, yeah, I did what now? Like,
maybe that'll be the finale. Maybe the finale after like the big thing, we'll have like a, oh, what are they up to now? Flashback of.
Yeah, because I don't think, I mean, of the 5 I've seen of the original, it didn't seem like the original was doing that either. I don't know if it ever does, but just this idea that you see a glimpse of what it's like after the person's back in their own body.
Yeah. I don't know if you want me to answer that, but
Don't, yeah.
I'll just answer it. No, that never happens.
Okay, well, fair enough. Fair enough.
As far as I can remember, that never happens. But that would be a clip show that I would be okay with.
Oh, yeah.
If it was
like,
just clips of like what the people's immediate reaction after Ben is left out of them.
yeah. Just like,
We get the astronaut like just floating around. It's like, what the hell? How did I get out here?
Yeah, why am I standing here? Or maybe like, let's say he saved someone's like marriage, like someone, like there was that episode where it was all about getting someone to propose. Like, what if it's like, it's like, wait, I'm engaged? Why did that happen? What's going on?
Well, we know thanks to Magic and his conversation in the elevator that it was about, just letting go, letting somebody else in. And there was a little, I don't think it was completely like amnesia throughout the whole thing, right? It just felt like you were being guided.
So yeah, it definitely sounded from like Magic's speech in that episode from before that there is some kind of recollection of the events that were happening whilst he wasn't in control.
Just open the door,
It kind of sounds a little Get Out, like they go into the sunken place, so they're still watching what's happening on like a big screen, but they're not getting to actually interact.
Ooh, maybe we'll get a real horror episode. What is actually like the point of view of the person who's being leapt into?
Or what if at some point like the evil leaper, assuming he is evil, leaps into someone who like not that they consent.
I love that you call it the evil leaper though. It sounds so cool. But
maybe that's just because it's sort of this slight bit of consent where Magic talks about letting someone in. It's not necessarily conscious consent per se, but there's kind of like there is an understanding and acceptance of it. Like, what if there is at some point someone leaps into someone who is not willing, who is actively trying to not let it happen? So it really is like Get Out, where they're going into a sunken place, and it's like a horror movie.
They're trying to take over.
Yeah.
So maybe Ben like gets some of the personality of the person he's leapt into, because they're trying to like take back over control.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Evil Leaper, perhaps, because they're more nefarious because they're the Evil Leaper.
Do we know that they're evil?
We don't necessarily know for evil for sure. But
Martinez is the name, I think.
Yeah, but there's certainly it's definitely someone that Janice thinks is a threat. So they're definitely an antagonist. Now, that doesn't necessarily make them evil, but
right. It could just be like this is going to interfere with our big plans, though, because now we have this other element that maybe we can't predict.
But I'm going to call him Perex.
Perex. Love it.
It's Arrested Development. I'm referencing a lot of things today, but yes, that's it. Maybe I have to talk about the leap though. He leaps to Chernobyl or something at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I definitely thought they were going to watch a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
I thought they were going to a nuke shelter.
Do you know what? It's funny is that it didn't look exactly like the reactor from the Chernobyl. And when I say Chernobyl, I mean the miniseries that HBO did, right? Because you actually see it. And I actually saw another interpretation of it in a movie that I did in Collector's Cut called The China Syndrome, which is about a nuclear reactor disaster possibly happening. So I'm not sure if it's because this one's more fantastical because they wanted to have it look cooler because it's got all this blue light and it's got all this extra stuff on top. But I still recognized it was like a reactor. So I went, yeah, that's like I can sort of see roughly like what it looked like in Chernobyl.
I wasn't quite sure because they definitely said it was like nuclear reactor, but I thought maybe there was something else sci-fi going on. Like maybe they've like leapt into the government project that eventually leads to Quantum Leap or something.
It's always funny you say that. I think at the end I just kind of accepted, it's just a nuclear reactor. But before, see when they were teasing it and he's in the elevator and he's got the army, he's got the military hat on and stuff. And he's like, just wait till you see this, sir. I was like, this feels like maybe the dawn of like the Quantum Leap project or something. Like I was actually thinking that. And then they showed it. I was like, maybe it is just a reactor and it'll just be set at a nuclear power plant.
It does seem like it might be older though. Like, the project is from Sam's mind. So that would have been 80s. This does feel like it's older. I was thinking they were going to, go to Bikini Island or something and watch some nukes go off.
It does feel like it's like in the early days of a nuclear reactor though. And that's, maybe the 50s or something when they're like first putting these plants in. I have my timelines right. I don't know exactly when, if you're asking me, but I'm guessing 50s. But maybe 60s.
I commend them for me thinking, this is older than, the 2000s because, usually the hairs are not very good.
That's true.
The wigs are bad, but then the costumes are not good enough. But this one, like, it did look like it was an older time.
Yeah, it instantly felt like an older time. It still wouldn't shock me, though, if there's like a little tag at the end where it's like, this will one day become, like, Quantum Leap or something. Like, maybe not next episode, but I could see them doing that in a future episode where it's like, whatever we watched out the episode ends up being like the breadcrumb that becomes what Sam and Al end up being attached to later or
something. That'd be awesome.
Like
that'd be the kind of like fan service or Easter egg that I would really like. Yeah.
Like, because I think Sam obviously was behind building the original Quantum Leap, but I could see it being like this like lab or this place that's got like a reactor that they need to do this sort of stuff. That was already there for another reason, and it's at the end. It's like, okay, we'll give this place another project. There's this.
We'll put it in. We're in New Mexico. That's what it is.
Yeah. There's this
that'll be the big
thing.
reveal.
Yeah. Maybe they'll go. I mean, I don't really want to go this far, but like if they wanted to and they had the money, they could do like, here's de-aged like Sam Beckett walking in. They're gonna do the digital de-aging nonsense.
Yeah, sure.
Please don't do that. I will.
Only if like this prodigy farm child named Sam Beckett is there, but he's still voiced by older Scott Bakula. So it's consistent with the original show.
See, now I'm just imagining them doing a scene where they're back in the time when Sam was a teenager again, and we get like a different actor playing that kid, but we still dub him with present day.
That's what I'm referencing.
Yeah. From the original pilot. Yeah. Okay. All right. There you go. That's our thoughts on this week's Quantum Leap.
Oh, did they say that Quantum Leap will return on January 30th? Are we getting another break?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't notice.
I watched this taped off of television, so it was, when they showed the trailer for something upcoming, which sounds actually really cool. It sounds like I don't know if this is the next episode or not, but there's going to be some sort of Groundhog Day thing where like he keeps going back and back, like keeps resetting.
A nuclear reactor could be the reason for that.
Yeah, so maybe that is the next episode. Which that sounds quite exciting because Groundhog Day plots always work.
Neither Wiki or IMDb have the date of the next one, which would suggest it may be a break because otherwise they'd probably
the date would be obvious, right?
Yeah, I can't find a quick answer. Stupid NBC. All right, thank you very much for joining us, everyone. You can support us over at patreon.com/MailFustTV. Keep all the content coming. And of course, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that usual stuff. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time. Keep watching TV. Have you got, or sorry, Ziggy, have you got any vanilla?